It's New Brew Thursday!
Woo!
And we're back at Small Bar here in San Diego for the Craft Brewers Conference 2012, and we ran into the Hopcast.
We actually traded Matt for the Hopcast in like sort of like a, you know, baseball card trade, yeah. So
he's just
Goose Island got a Matt Becker, and we got the Hopcast in exchange.
You traded Matt and Brad for a Brad and Ken.
Brad and Ken, exactly.
The Hopcast is just Matt then now? All alone?
Yeah. No, well, I think Brad will fly in from...
And Maeve comes with us, so he's got no one to film her.
Yeah, Hoppy.
Him.
So we're at Small Bar, like I said, and they brought us some tasty treats from Munster.
Three Floyds.
Some Three Floyds Zombie Dust.
Yeah, so it's kind of like we're at our small bar in Chicago because we're drinking Three Floyd beers.
That's right. We're bringing Chicago and San Diego together.
Yeah, if you weren't aware, and there's a few different locations of small bars in Chicago, which very good friends of ours. So shut up!
Sorry, I was so happy that happened.
Taking over your show here.
Wait till you see what I do with the show, by the way.
Nice.
But yeah, so this is it's like being at home drinking zombie dust at Small Bar.
Yeah.
And they have Chicago style Italian beef.
Now, why does he point at me when he says that? I'm not Italian.
You're beefy though.
I'm beefy. Yeah, so we're here at the CBC. Obviously, if any time that we're within 20 meters of each other, we've got to film a show. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so the Hopcast has been nice enough to have us on their show a couple of times, so we had to return the favor. Cheers. So, you know, in the true celebration of craft, we have to collaborate.
Yeah.
Yet again.
You know, even when, you know, you've got craft brewing collaborations, and we've started doing the podcast
collaborations. Because you were on with Lori Delk today as well.
Yes, we were.
Who's been on our show a few times.
100 beers, 30 days.
Will be again. And yeah, so it's just
nice lady.
And I saw the beers you guys
Hey,
did too. There was a lot of Bourbon County.
Yeah, you guys were
Goose
like,
Island
you guys blew your load on
goodness.
that show, didn't you?
Those were her beers.
That was, yeah, she.
Those are hers.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so she blew her load on you.
So she's been holding on you guys.
No, we sent a bunch of that stuff to you guys too. And,
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
she held on to it.
I get so
waited.
excited every time I get a package from Goose Island. I'm like, oh yay! I will hug this box.
Ken's thinking of me.
Yes.
I couldn't believe that she actually held on to everything and didn't open it. I was like, you guys, you still have all this? I sent you that like 6 months ago.
I still have the bottle of
drink
King
it and
Henry.
talk about it, right?
Yeah.
That's why we sent it
Yeah,
to
but
you.
it was awesome. So we
Yeah.
were able to run down the whole line. It was
Right
a
on.
good time.
That's cool. That was kind of smart of her.
Yeah, she's a thinker.
So what are you guys doing here during the CBC? Like, what do you guys? What's your plans?
Trying to make sure it looks like we belong.
He's like, you know, I want to make sure that we don't get kicked out.
Are we
That's kind of
actually
what we're
working-
for.
Earning your media pass. I guess.
Earn your media pass is number
Yeah,
one.
seriously.
But you guys are West Coast dudes, and I would feel safe in calling Three Floyds basically our West Coast brewer. They use a lot of hops.
Stuff. Zombie Dust.
What do you think of this beer?
I love this beer, and I'm very excited because a couple of people who have given me a bottle or two of it, and it's like every time I get it, I'm just like,
You've had this before?
You follow me on Twitter, right?
Whatever.
I have to give a shout out to Dr. Zach on Twitter because he brought me the first bottle. And shut up!
Right? Two fingers.
Yeah, it's just like,
Shout out! Whatever.
Shut up, guy.
No, but like, you know, because at some point I was supposed to have a bottle and didn't, and I bitched about it on Twitter, and he was like, I got a bottle, like, here you go. I know I am this bitch. It's like, But yeah, this is such
beer.
Yeah, it's a great beer though. I mean, it is, and I don't know if you've seen the last few shows that we've done, but I've kind of been like, I'm a little uncomfortable calling it West Coast style IPAs because I don't really think that's necessarily accurate anymore. I mean, you know, Three Floyds has shown that, like, Three Floyds, Surly, Bell's, you know, they're showing that you don't need to be on the West Coast to create a beer that tastes like this.
It's a style that, you know, is inspired by brewers from the West Coast who made that kind of beer. Really super citrusy, hoppy, hop bombs.
Right.
You know, and it does change from brewery to brewery, but it's definitely, I think, more of an influence than more of a style.
Right.
You know, I see what you're saying. and I still think there's something to be said about West Coast IPAs and how IPAs from other parts of the country are West Coast influenced. But just to get rid of the
Well, how do you
West
guys,
Coast
being in Chicago
Well,
and Midwest?
it's funny that you mentioned that because I recently came across a West Coast person and they had tried, and you mentioned Bell's, Hop Slam, which is their big hoppy beer that comes out and everyone seeks it out and all that stuff. And they were like, yeah, it wasn't hoppy enough. And for us out there, we were just like...
Yeah. He does not represent all of the West Coast as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry, that is not an accurate
We did Hop
statement.
Slam on the show too, and I was kind of in that group where it's like, you know, for it being called Hop Slam, I did expect something like this, to be honest with you, or, you know, something very West Coast. But for what it was really good.
Well, that's the thing. There's a difference between being like
it's a
because it's a balanced.
hoppy
It is a
IPA.
balanced IPA, absolutely. And so there's a difference between like, you know, I expected it to be hoppier, or I expected this or whatever. But for anybody to poo-poo that beer, they don't know what
They're just
they
being
don't.
dicks.
Yeah, they
I
don't
don't know that he
understand.
was necessarily
yeah.
poo-pooing it, but it was just like, you know, okay.
It was my
that's
mission
your-
to get Ken to say poo-pooing, and it actually succeeded. Mission accomplished.
I think, you know, it was just...
He called the
He
shit
thought it was cute, you know?
Right.
It's one of those
He's
things
like,
where
oh, it's like, when the
Midwest
10-year-old
guys
with the
and
Down
your
syndrome
hops.
comes over and brings
Yeah,
you a
that's-
picture,
that's
it's
nice.
like,
That
you know.
pisses me off too, because that's not what that beer is supposed to be. It's,
No, that beer is impressive. That beer is not cute. It's not
freak you
nice.
out.
It's impressive. That's an impressively brewed beer. Bell's, and people in the Midwest have every right to be proud of the fact that that beer has attained the hype that it has, because it earns it.
I mean, honestly though, if they just brewed another hoppy IPA, I mean, it would be
And they
good.
do. And it's fantastic. Bell's makes a great, just their regular IPA. It's called Two Hearted, and it's,
Right. Bell's Too Hard is a good
I would
beer.
have to say that's probably the Midwest IPA, the Midwest IPA.
Yeah, you
is
can
Bell's
buy
Two
that
Hearted,
on tap almost everywhere.
and it's probably the best.
Hop Slam is
Out there.
a seasonal beer, from what I understand, right?
It's a
February,
one year.
March time.
So for that to be their seasonal, and it's nothing too extreme, you know, it's just a well-crafted beer. There's nothing wrong with that. And so anyone who's going to hate on Bell's for not making Hop Slam hoppy enough, I think is just being a jerk.
I think it's
I
not
don't.
good. Go spend your
I
days
didn't mean
on
to
the-
like open up this whole can of worms. I don't think anyone was hating on
this
it.
is
but,
great.
yeah.
No, we're totally going to string you up.
No, I'm not saying anybody was hating either. Okay, I said hating. If anyone's going to slight,
It was
That's the
just
right
it was
word.
just a different interpretation. You know, you
Marginalized.
have people out here that are used to a certain thing,
Right.
and
Well, I mean,
Hop
we,
Slam
out
isn't what
here,
they're
like,
used to.
you know, we have like Palette Wrecker and West Coast IPA and Stones IPA and, you know, so yeah, it's like and Mongo and
Sculpin.
Ruination.
Poor Man's IPA from Port is like one of the hoppiest beers on the planet. It consistently wins Alpha King every year at GABF. I mean, it's just, we are spoiled rotten when it comes to hops here. And so there's no question about that at all. But at the same time, we still need to show respect for these breweries in other areas that are doing it just as well.
Getting back to this beer though, I didn't know it was a pale ale, so now I know that. But it's really hoppy, not in like a forced kind of way. There's some spice in there, like hop spiciness going on. Maltiness, I mean, it's balanced, I think, to a certain extent. We were talking about the All Day IPA from Founders. That beer I had for the first time with Steve at Toronado in San Diego, and really well balanced, really well done. It's tasty. It's just not like I want hops. It's hops, but like an interesting grain profile too.
Right.
But this is definitely, I think, a good take on a West Coast style hoppy beer. You know,
And this is really
well-
like a cleaned up version of Alpha King,
Yeah.
right? It's close to Alpha King
Right.
for us. So.
Yeah, and what I like about a lot of like, in general with hoppy beers, what I like is to let the hops go. If you're gonna make a hoppy beer, just go ahead and do that. And
Get crazy with them, yeah.
a lot of times I don't like when the malt gets in the way of a hoppy beer. I like the malt
I
bill
agree.
to be kind of clean.
Completely agree.
And then just let the malts the hops do their singing and let that go. Sometimes I think when you're just personal preference, when you get like kind of a really super malty and super hoppy at the same time, they start to compete with each other and it gets muddy and a little
Well, I
heavy.
think the biggest problem in IPAs that I've noticed from different, like newer breweries or breweries that are kind of starting to get into that range, is that they tend to sometimes use hops that are more for aroma and they try to use them for flavor, and they're not good flavor hops, and so it's kind of like, oh yeah, I see what you're doing here, but it's not really working for me. And it's, you know, it's maybe that's what they're going for, and that's cool for them, I guess. But it's like for me, it's when a brewery like Three Floyds, what Three Floyds does really well is they understand the ingredients that they're using in their beer.
Yeah.
And that's what I really respect about them. They know their hops, they know their grains, they know exactly what's going to work together and what's not going to work together. They know exactly which hops are used for bittering, which ones are used for flavor, and which ones are used for aroma, and they nail it every fucking time. And so
even with some of their speaking of Three Floyds, with some of their maltier beers, which for them, I mean, a lot of their beers are very hoppy, but they make an Irish red, a hoppy Irish red, that has a nice malt character, but it doesn't take away from the hoppiness of that beer. And a shout out to May because she loves that beer.
Shout out! Well, speaking of shout outs, have you guys had anything from Drake's?
Yes.
Because this actually reminds me a lot of the 1500, Drake's Pale Ale.
Yes, I've had Drake's.
For me, the 1500 was definitely more of malt forward. As far as flavor goes, it definitely has more of that.
I think it's a little bit more balanced in this beer, but I think they're using a lot of similar hops, and so the hop bill on 1500 is very reminiscent to Zombie Dust.
This, I think, though, is very, very hop forward.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't compare it to 1500 at all, to be honest with you.
John has declared me wrong.
But what's cool about this beer specifically is that it's hoppy, but it's not really that bitter. It's not killing you on the palate. They're using a lot of late addition hops, but they use a shit ton of it.
Right. So you get a lot of aroma off of this beer.
Aroma and flavor.
The flavor, the hop flavor is right at the beginning. It's good, and I think that's what I was getting at before. Is that there's a lot of IPAs out there where the hops hit you on the back end, and for me personally, I don't like hops on the back end. When it gets to the back end of my palate, I want it to be sweet. I want it to kind of dry out a little bit, and like we've had the hop explosion. Now we're kind of having that sweetness of the beer, and then it just kind of flows through.
You want to be glad you drank something,
exactly.
Rather
than have my throat raped by Chinook, So
who's that?
She's on the corner.
Yeah, Chinook she's a new hooker right down the street, so she's
old Chinook.
Yeah. And when I say she, I really mean he, but whatevs.
Chinook.
Chinook.
Oh, that was bad. I'm sorry.
It worked though. It worked.
Oh my God. And that's what happens when podcasters get drunk and start filming. Yay.
They get scratches on their face.
And we sleep in hooker blood.
Wow.
Whatevs. Now there's a whole story behind that. I'll tell you one day, but. Yeah. Well,
really,
you guys,
it's nice to be with you guys.
Yeah, I look forward to every time we get to hang out together because you guys are the funnest people in the world to party with.
It's our first time on your show, and so it's great to be here. You've joined us a couple times, and it's kind of nice because back in 2010 you were in Chicago in our neck of the woods and joined us on a CBC episode. So
that really worked out, didn't it?
Fun to go full circle, and
we don't have a cool rooftop to do this on though. So
we've got a sweet bar though.
Sweet bar, yeah.
We could do it on my roof, but we might die.
Yeah, we might fall off and die, especially since we're drunk. But
I'm willing to risk it. I've got nothing else to do.
I've climbed on many roofs.
Ken's like, I'm alone. I'm okay. He loves you, Dana. He talks about you.
I'm in a long distance relationship. Yeah. I'll go on any roof that you want me to go.
Wow. So what are you guys doing tonight? Let's tease the audience with this is what we were doing.
To the White Labs, they have a bar here.
Oh, we were there yesterday. It's freaking awesome.
Very excited about doing the White Labs.
If you want to know exactly the impact that yeast has on a beer, that's the way to do it.
I think that's pretty awesome that they have a bar.
Right.
I'm sure. I bet we see more of that. Maybe we'll see McKellar open up a hop bar
if you're
or something like that.
Not familiar with what White Labs is doing, is they're obviously a yeast company, but they have this bar open and they take the same beer and then ferment it with all these different yeast strains, so you can actually pick out what's going on with that specific
So they did a pale ale collaboration with Ballast Point, which is actually their yellowtail. So they brewed the yellowtail and they took the wort, and they brewed it with 10 different yeast strains. I did the. What's that?
They fermented it with 10 different.
Yeah. What did I say?
You brewed it.
Oh. Brewed, fermented, whatevs.
Semantics.
Yeah. If you ever watch me brew, you'll understand why I make those kind of mistakes.
Steve does brew with yeast.
Exactly. I'm gonna throw my yeast in during the boil. Die, bitches. Anyway,
It's called Steven's Milkshake.
Yeah, exactly.
Aside.
Yeah.
Brings all the boys.
So, and I'm like, it's better than yours. I could teach you, but I'd have to charge.
That was a Brad bomb right there.
No, but they fermented it with 10 different yeast strains. I did the flight of Belgian variety yeast strains, which was really cool. And it's just so interesting to see that yeast has such a huge like impact on the beer. Like it is literally 1/3 of the ingredient. It's not just a component or whatever. It's 1/3 of the beer is the yeast.
It's actually a fourth.
When you're tasting it like that, it breaks it down to
water is water.
breaks it down to like the
Well, there's
primal
different water
things. And
profiles.
it's neat to be like, oh, you're that nerdy about it. Where it's like,
Right.
I want to know.
Well, it's funny
I want to know
because
the water. I want to
nerdy.
know
I'm
the
like-
hops.
I put that. I put a picture on Facebook of me drinking these beers, and like all the responses I got were like, "Nerd." Thank you very much, guys, for taking time out of your conference schedule, coming over here, and as always, until next time, stay safe and drink beer.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having us.
Oh yeah. Do you guys have like a? You have a tagline, right, at the end?
And thank you for watching the Hopcast.
There you go.